The game's still not open, but we are going to not let that stop us talking about some players and starting with the defenders that we always do every year. The guys down back, who can we trust and who are we giving the flick? Let's go!
Just done it from nowhere. Lifted the goal from inside the 30. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on X at Ball Boys Fantasy. And with a new pep in his step, now that we're starting to talk about some actual players and some prices, some data, Luke Rogerson is sitting here with me with a Zupa Duper on a hot summer's night.
Yeah, it's very hot. I'm going to mukbang my way through this episode. But it's very hot in here. We need to maybe price up some air conditioning because we're going to melt our way through the preseason the way things are going.
Have you seen the map? There's a map going around about Australia being...
It's not a heat map.
It's a heat map. It's a global heat map.
Don't tell me.
And Australia is actually, factually, the hottest place in the world right now.
Really?
There is nowhere hotter than Australia right now. We actually, up here in Queensland, are probably having it pretty mild compared to a lot of other people. I think Melbourne had some 40-degree days, and South Australia had it pretty hot as well, but...
Get yourself an icy little friend.
Yeah,
and you will.
Trust me. Take it from a Queenslander. Right. Yeah, go the Zupa Dupers. But we're talking about defenders today, Luke, and apologies in advance if my voice sounds horrible.
Yeah, don't bring the sickliness on the podcast, mate.
The lack of AFL fantasy is what I'm going to blame it on because... that keeps me going early in January, and without it, I'm experiencing withdrawal symptoms.
Put it in my veins.
Put it in my veins. But we'll push through. We're going to start off by talking about the top of the line, the biggest boy in this position, and nearly in the entire game. We're going to talk about Wang, and then we'll also go on to Nazai Wangini-Millera.
It's Wang's world.
It's Wang's world.
We're just living in it.
This man was the poster child for the Ball Boys last year.
He normally is the poster child for the Ball Boys.
Mostly because of our immature nature, but also because this man was a fucking monster last year.
Yeah.
Averaged 111 points, but it actually got better than that because when he moved into the midfield of the final 8 games, he averaged 114.1 points in this time. And in games where he averaged more than 50% CBAs for the season, he averaged 118 in those games. Now, it was a 6-game sample size. What do we expect from the Wang this season? Is he a midfielder? Is he a defender? Does it matter?
I don't think it matters. It is hard to go there, but the first dot point I've got written here is inflated Wang. Because I just...
Nothing wrong with a bit of inflated Wang.
No, there's not. And it might be blasphemous for me to say, but I don't think we can start with the Wang. He's had an absolute monstrous career year. Don't. It doesn't fit the hunting value strategy that normally you subscribe to.
He also has an early season buy as well, which is not really what we want, especially for our fully priced premiums. I do think, however, if I'm sitting here and I'm predicting, and it seems like an easy one to do, you predict who's going to be the number 1 scoring defender. You pick the guy who was the number 1 scoring defender last year. I think that's going to be him again, though, this year. I don't see anyone really coming for his crown this season. I am interested to see what he does. I do predict that he's going to basically be nearly a full-time mid this season. What are your thoughts in terms of like where do you expect him to play as he finishes his Super Duper?
Sorry, I'm really struggling to manage this. I shouldn't have done this. I see him as midfielder as well. I think that we saw glimpses of it through last year. And to me, with Jack Steele now out of there, they need every bit of Wang, every inch of him. So I think that that's where he'll play. And like I said at the start, I don't really think it matters so much for his scoring, but as a starting option, as much as it goes against every fibre in my being, Wang out.
So Wang's out, and we can't start with him either. I don't think he's someone that... Of all of these premiums that have the early buys, he's probably the guy that I could I actually almost see the most upside in him because of that midfield potential and the numbers there. As weird as that sounds, being that he's the most expensive, but I do agree. I think 110 price tag, 111 price tag for someone who's got an early buy, it's a bit much for me, a bit rich for my blood. So he is getting the little line put through his names for me early on.
The other thing too, and this is not to say that he wasn't getting attention at the end of last year, but you think any team playing St Kilda this year, it's just going to be Wang all over the whiteboard pre-game.
just some dig drawings, just
yeah,
a bit of graffiti.
I disagree with you on that last point. I actually think that the next couple of guys that we're going to talk about potentially present more upside.
Okay, I can see it in Locky Whitfield, who's the next guy we're going to talk about here, simply because he had an injured score there in his...
Am I Mike 2 or Mike 1?
You're Mike 1, my friend. So
okay.
Actually, no, you're Mike 2. You think we know by now. Yeah, I'll put you off. But Locky Whitfield had the injured game last year, so if you remove that score... he averaged the 109.5. He's coming in priced at 105. And 108, 109 to me is exactly where I sort of view Locky Whitfield. He's been that gun for the last few seasons. He's the guy the Giants want the ball in the hands of. They love chipping it around in the back line before they start that orange tsunami. And I don't really see that changing. He is getting a bit older though, which is probably why I side more towards, if I had to choose one, I'd side more towards the younger Wang, but Whitfield to me does still present upside from his price, be it marginal.
It was good to see last year that the Giants showed that they could have two kind of top scoring players in the back line as well, so they showed they could share the points back there. When we're talking about a guy that's priced at 105, you don't need too much upside. No. If you pick him at 105 and he goes 110, that's a great pick in those realms. The other thing to consider is obviously when you're paying up for guys, you want them to be a captaincy option. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go through his first 4 games. So Hawks in round 0 is a tough matchup, but obviously that's just one we get to look at.
Yep.
Then he goes Dogs, Saints, Collingwood, bye.
Pretty good ones.
Tigers after the bye, first game
but
after.
even Saints and Dogs for a defender, like they've always been nice matchups there as well. Saints particularly.
Yeah, I think if you're tossing up Wang and Whitfield, if you're putting them in the kind of like they're the two top dogs in defence, I'm Whitfield. I think there's more value there. But
both of those players are the two that were on the round 4 bye, which is the bye with 2 teams on there. So if you're going to pick any of the premiums on the early round buys, I think it is between one of these two. For me personally, I think they both present a little bit of upside. I think Whitfield's is more cut and dry. Like it's like you've got the injury game. You know, he is what he is outside of that.
Yep.
So he's basically a 110 guy, priced at 105. That's awesome. We'd love to see that. And if he didn't have a buy, I'd be heavily considering him because I don't really love. We're going to talk about these other options, but it is just that it's still fairly priced, I would say. There is a world where he does average 105 just through sheer fluctuations of year-on-year seasons and obviously being, what is he now, 31 years old, you know, you might start to see him come down a little bit as maybe Lockie Ash rises up. But I do like both those guys and they would be my top 2 picks in a draft as well, probably.
What does Whitfield have to score in round 0?
We're playing that game. If he comes out... Oh,
I think Wang's more likely to come out, but Whitfield, tell
he might score. Let's say he puts a 140 out there.
Okay,
I'll start to look. I'd really start to look.
It's not likely against the Hawks. I wouldn't have thought.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Now I can't remember if I didn't have this guy or you had it. You put him on here, but let's talk about Dane Zorko. Speaking about getting older, this guy epitomises that.
He's not bad at that.
He's not bad at it. In fact, I've been saying that for the last 2 years, but the last 2 years he's made me look like a fool because he hasn't been injured, hasn't missed a game.
See, it's coincided with us getting older and we feel how our bodies feel every year, just getting shitter and shitter. We assume that must be happening to everyone else, but apparently Dane Zorko's pulling some Benjamin Button shit.
Yeah, he's playing really good footy. Priced at 101. Excuse me.
Bless you, mate. Pull yourself towards yourself.
Do you think...
Come on, mate.
All right, there's going to be a bit about this podcast, I'm afraid. Do you think there's upside in the old man Zorks?
No, and for a couple of reasons. I mean, I say no so confidently. He's, defying gravity every fucking year. But I think it's more the emergence of maybe some of the other talent in that in that role for Brisbane, and just him being able to. I'm not saying that he's not going to get his, but I just think that guys like Jasper Fletcher, he obviously showed a heap last year, and then we would expect Kitty Coleman to be back there. I think Kitty Coleman's too good to not be playing. So you just kind of ask yourself, with the emergence of those two and the fact that you would anticipate Brisbane wanting to get the ball in their hands, does that mean that Zorko's value? I would say no.
I would have a lot of trouble starting with anyone from Brisbane who's at a decently high price, because they just have so many mouths to feed. And they've just added more this season. They haven't really lost anyone. Like, they've lost Calamarchi and the Big O, Max scored, they might have scored 65 points, at most. They're bringing in Draper. They're bringing in a new father-son or academy rookie who's supposed to be the next best thing. And there's too many, Kitty Coleman's going to be coming in. He didn't play one game last year. So there's all these guys that I would expect to score more than the guys coming out, and it's got to come from somewhere, and I think it's got to come from the 46-year-old here in Zorko. So,
round two bye
as well. It's tough to pick those guys that play one game and go to the next one. So, as much as he is down from the year before, I don't think I expect him to bounce back to that. He did average 104 if you include the finals, so there's a little bit of meat on the bone there potentially if you want to look with the glass half full, but I'm not going to be starting with Zorko this year. Now, those are the top three players when it comes to price, except for there's one in there that we did skip over, because this is the one player out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 top 7 defenders, only one of them does not have an early buy, and that is Connor Rozee. He's the only player in the top 7 defenders from last year that does not have an early buy. Is it as simple as we kind of have to start with him if you want to go a premium defender?
I think this is a layup, and I know you often miss layups, but the fact that he's got... sorry, drive by...
Well, my layups were king. The jump shot you got to worry about. I don't know.
The fact you're a past first point guard if ever I've seen one. The fact that Rozee doesn't have the buy, but he has a lot of other signs pointing to him as well. Yeah. So you have to go back, obviously to last year. He missed a couple of games, so just like Whitfield, we kind of factor that in. But after round 4, in games where he wasn't injured and he played less than 30% CBAs, he's going at 112. In the 7 games where he played greater than 60% CBAs, he goes at 107. So he can score in the midfield role. Yeah. He can score in that half-back role. I'd probably argue that based on last year, he scores better in the half-back role.
I think he does too.
My question to you is, where does he play?
I don't know. Am I right in saying that Horn Francis, is he potentially missing some time at the start of the year?
Normally all over the horny boy, but not as yet.
Someone who knows a bit more maybe can tell me that. But
can I tell you that?
I think I'd prefer him to start at the half back, because there's more of that scoring pie there that he can take advantage of. When he goes in the midfield, Butters kind of eats into his scoring a little bit. So I think we want to see him in the half back. I don't know if it works. I don't. But the other thing is, I don't know who they would play off the halfback if it's not him.
Yeah, I think that from what I've been looking at, I think Josh Carr has actually come out and said, we like the sound of Rozee off halfback, because they also want to get the iceberg in the middle. We'll talk a little bit about him on the next episode. But can I also mention to you, we've been talking about Port Adelaide's fantastic run to start the season.
And it is fantastic.
It is fantastic, but it's not as fantastic for halfbacks as it is for midfielders.
You're right.
It's something to be noted. I think Connor Rozee, probably it doesn't matter, to be honest. I think for him,
he's kind of that just roams everywhere.
Correct.
He was kicking goals as a halfbacker as well.
We're not talking hard matchups for halfbacks. We're just talking not as fruitful as maybe for midfielders. So just something to be aware of. But I think regardless of what role he plays, there's
teams where you expect the ball to not be too much in the defensive line.
I think that probably does it. Yeah. But what's he priced at? I mean, it's
104. So what are we? I don't think he's gone too much better than that, across an entire season. But this is where, like I talked about in one of our recent podcasts, where I'm going to take into account the draw a little bit more heavily. Normally I would kind of look at these guys and go, oh, there's not that much upside, I don't think. That was his career year, actually, last year, not 104. He's never done better. So we are quote unquote paying at a top price.
Yeah.
But I think especially early in the year, and especially with, like what you said, we saw him thriving a little bit more off that halfback role. There's at least a little bit of meat on the bone, and because he's the only option in those top 6, top 8 defenders that doesn't have a bye, I think it's enough for me to start to think about him. Now, I would still contemplate going with a cheaper backline, but if I'm going to have a quote-unquote premium that I'm pretty comfortable just to lock away as a top 6 defender, he's the guy.
Definitely.
I don't want to get too carried away with saying that he's like underpriced and undervalued. He can go 110. I don't know if I really believe that when I say that over the season, but for maybe the first 6 or 7 weeks, he could go 110. Absolutely. And I think that's the adjustment I'm trying to make this year is I just want to get off to a good start and then figure the rest out a bit later.
Yeah, I think the reason why people are looking at him as value is because they saw what he did in the halfback role and then are assuming that he's going to continue to do that, which I think he will. I'm interested to see under a new coach what that new game style looks like, but listening to the Pod boys who obviously know the power a lot better than we do.
They do, yes.
They were perhaps suggesting that they were going to slow it down a little bit, which might be more conducive to those plus 6s. So
that sounds like music to Rosee's ears right there.
I think it's all going to be Rozee.
Nice. So that kind of brings us out of the top 6. Now, we could go and talk about every top 6 player, but we're going to go to some more players that I think are a little bit more interesting to talk about that have a few more sort of upside. A few of them do have some early buys, some of them don't, but I'm going to start with Daicos, and it's not Nick, but it is Josh Daicos. Simply because of anyone in the Collingwood team, and I said, I think in a couple podcasts ago, they're probably one of the most irrelevant fantasy teams this season, at least to start with. I think Josh Daicos is probably one of the two, maybe, that you could make an argument to start based on what his role could be.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're big on stats, but in games where he played greater than 40% CBAs, he averaged 132.
Was that one game?
Correct.
Yeah. So I went a bit conservative and I said there's 3 games where he averaged 20% or more CBAs and averaged 106.
Balls deep, mate.
But it really was inflated by that massive game.
Correct.
And wasn't it like
it was just
a massive quarter? Yeah, it was like an 85-point quarter.
Yeah, and most of those CBAs, I didn't watch the game.
So it's pretty dangerous. It's pretty dangerous inflating that and correlating that as like, this guy's a midfielder is going to be a gun.
Are you telling me my stats no good?
No, your stat's great. It's an excellent stat, but the other thing I think is you have that stat and then his last name's Daicos. So it kind of, they bode well together. So I think there is still something here. 94 price stat figure. I think there is a world where he is a 100 plus averaging guy. It's the early buy. It's the same sort of thing. I don't think it's enough for me to start, but if we get word that he is an inside midfielder and he has a big opening round playing that inside mid role, I'll start to think about it.
The early buy kills you, but I'm looking at Pendle 62% CBAs, side bottom 34% CBAs. They're in Zorko territory. Those guys are ancient. So at some point, all due respect, of course. But, you know, at what point are we going to see double Daicos, double D?
Yeah.
In midfield?
100%. And he could be a guy that we maybe leave from our starting side, but maybe if you do want to start like a Wang or a Whitfield and you get to that round 4 bye, trade him out. Daicos is coming off his bye. He's got the good role. Like, just because you don't start with him, I don't think like we can put him completely out of our mind, especially even early in the season, because one game you got to see him, and then one game you got to see him when it actually counts for fantasy. So his price won't get away from you too quickly if you like what you see.
The other thing I want to know about is this bloke basically moved to halfback and ruined Dan Houston's life. Last year, Dan Houston hadn't gone under 90 for 3 seasons, and then Dan Houston literally averaged mid-60s.
Yeah.
For his brand new club, and he was the marquee, trade guy. So I'm interested to see just how that all kind of goes out. Surely Collingwood aren't just going to let Dan Houston have another mid-60 season.
I don't know, man. When a Daicos is calling for the ball, you give that man the ball.
Correct.
I thought he was really good. So I'm not sure that was the reason that they maybe didn't quite achieve what they wanted, but who knows. Let's go on to another guy. Another J, Jordan Clark. Freo Dockers. So we've got a team without an early bye. They obviously, as a team, were down last year in terms of particularly the marks. They were the last ranking side for marks as a team average last season. They were sort of, I think, just a little bit above average the year before. So massive fall off. And Jordan Clark dropped about 7 7.5 points per game from the year before. Doesn't have an early bye. My question to you is, obviously, the game style scares us, but think about the teams that were successful last year. Brisbane, I'm pretty sure, if I have my stats correct, might have been the highest team in marks per game. Yes, correct. Geelong were the second highest in marks per game. Guess who were the two teams in the grand final? This whole hard turn to being a low marking team as like we're just going to get the ball moving on. Sometimes the AFL can be a copycat league. Could that be like a bottom point in terms of that stat for Freo? And could it potentially be, could we view it as it's only up from here?
Maybe. You need to be skilled to play that mark game. And I'm not suggesting that Freo aren't skilled, but I think the move to the kind of chaos, keep it moving forward, was a strategy that kind of could suit any personnel with just,
regardless,
that intensity and effort. What Brisbane and Geelong's been doing for years and years and years is pretty special, considering how skilled they are and how they can they can almost play different styles, but that's the other thing about those teams. Completely unrelated, Jordan Clark threw the gloves on and played keeper in a local cricket league over the off-season too.
Okay, does that make you want to pick him?
No, I just saw it on Twitter. Okay. I just wondered whether he might be a fantasy catch.
No, I'm too late. But that's a stretch if I've ever seen one.
I didn't make the cricket thing up, by the way. I actually saw that.
Should have had the cricket sound effect for the other crickets.
Got to be better, mate. Not for me. Jordan Clark's
not for you. Not for you. I think it's a stretch. It's always hard to predict those kind of game style changes in the preseason as well, because you're going to see teams experiment with things, and it's hard to go in a preseason game and like a practice match, and you're not going to get round zero either. So go definitively, they're changing their game style. It's going to stick. Sometimes those things take a while for you to go, that's actually a real thing, and not just something that they're talking up or practicing or trialing in a practice match. So
I'd be
even
shocked.
if I do see it in the preseason game, I don't know if I'm going to believe it enough to launch into him as a starting pick.
I'd be shocked if Freo changed their game plan last year and then went and changed it again this year back to what they had. So.
I tend to agree, but it wouldn't totally shock me if he has a bounce back this year.
Can you please stop trying to convince me that Trent Rivers is a good pick?
Hey, I didn't pick him last year. We talked about him. It was fun. We went away from that pick, and we didn't really speak about him again. But there's been two big moves in the offseason from Melbourne. Oliver's gone. Petrarca's gone. Jack Steele comes in. There's still a big hole left in the midfield there. Is Trent Rivers the guy that's going to come in and fill that?
Let me tell you what's a big hole filled with despair. Is Trent Rivers 6 games with 60% CBAs or more?
Yep.
What do you reckon he averaged in those 6 games?
About 84.
78.
Damn it.
It's a pit of despair.
Okay.
I can see the narrative. In all seriousness, I can see the narrative.
Yeah.
But he's had opportunities in there before.
I think his issue isn't CBAs. His issue is time on ground. He doesn't get enough TOG to make a big difference, because I did the same sort of thing. I went, okay, what's he doing the CBAs? And again, a bit more, little lower threshold than you. 50%, had 14 games with those, averaged 83 across his entire career.
Okay. We've got career numbers.
But in this Melbourne, he did score, especially last year, like the half-backs were the guys scoring. Like you think about Christian Salem and our boy
Jake Bowie.
Like they were killing it. So maybe moving him into the midfield is not what we want. But in the 12 games that he's averaged more than 80% TOG, he's averaged 93. So I think that's, to me, the issue with him is he is typically a low 70s TOG player, and it's just not enough. You need to be such a good points per minute guy to be a premium in any line with that low TOG. And again, it's not something that I feel like is an easy thing to predict from preseason data. Like you're going to get players who are managed and players who are going out to prove themselves. So it's going to be something that I'm going to need to see in season before I'm going to be happy to go, yep, launching on that.
One of the troubling things with what you said before is potentially he scores better in that halfback role. Well, he's had the opportunity to be halfback. It's guys like Petrarca and Oliver weren't taking any halfback time off him. So if our argument for him kind of his upside is those guys leaving, well, then we're talking about him stepping into a midfield role, which we're really not sure about. So he's a troubling one. I think he leaves you up the river without a paddle.
Nice. Let's go on to the last guy we're going to speak about here, and it's our good old friend Tom Stewart.
Friend is a stretch.
We can't have a preseason without talking about Tom Stewart and saying that he's value, because he undeniably is value, Luke.
The first thing I've got written here is literally undeniable upside, but
it seems like there's a but.
It's a big but.
There's buts every year with this guy.
It's a Nicki Minaj level but.
It's huge. Yeah, he can definitely twerk with that, but he is someone that you can always play the remove the injury played games, and if we do that, he averaged 87.5 last year.
You got to remove a few.
Hasn't played a full season since 2019. But I think it goes beyond that. I think the team doesn't rely on him as much as they have in the past. So I think even if he's healthy, I'm starting to think that the upside is just not as high as it once was.
Geelong have so many, I'll call them respectfully underrated guys. There are so many guys in the Geelong back half that, let's say, are not like those sexy names that get around all the time, but they're fucking good players.
Yeah, and if you're a Geelong fan, you don't clench up when they have the ball in their hands. Like, you are... you're okay. You're feeling all right. Like, they feel safe enough. So I don't think they need to rely on Tom Stewart. Now, because you know me, I'm not afraid to go to an injury-prone player, and I don't necessarily love the label injury-prone. But there needs to be a reward worth the risk. And to me, the risk is probably the same as it's ever been. But the main thing that's going to stop me going there is I don't think the reward is as high as it's been in years gone past. Plus, obviously, we talk about the fact they have an early buy, which they did last year. And I think is it one of those early ones? Yeah, round 2. So he's at a price that if you see something you really like in the first couple of rounds, like opening round and round 1, you can get onto him in round 3 and not miss too much if you're desperate to go there. So
let's kind of use him just to have a little side discussion. No doubt there'll be people that are thinking, okay, Tom Stewart could be value here. And in their mind, they're thinking, okay, we've got a rule change this year that maybe protects me against some of the things that have just killed people with Tom Stewart. I don't know whether I love that. If you're thinking about that rule, then you're effectively conceding that you're picking a guy that's likely to burn you. Can you not just find value elsewhere?
I mean, it might depend on what you see and what you envision and think about all the other options as well. Because we've gone through basically, what have we done? 8 players, which, and these were the ones we tried to pick out that had upside. Do you know what I mean? Like, we could have talked about a lot of other players that were in sort of that premium territory that we just skipped right over because I don't see too much upside. So there's, at the top of the defense, I think it's pretty bare bones when it comes to value picks. So Tom Stewart is, like you said, undeniable value. So if you're just totally off everyone else, then maybe that rule's enough. But again, I go back to the fact that I don't see as much ceiling anymore. So if you do, like if you think he could still be that 95 guy for the season, assuming he's healthy, then I think that risk might be worth it. Because I do think that rule plus the best 18 in the rounds 2, 3, 4 do give you a bit of a safety blanket to fall back on. But I just don't know if that's where I sit with him. But let's just touching on that point. So we've gone through 8 premium defenders. Like I said, we've tried to actually pick out the defenders that we do think there's a bit upside. Like, you could talk about Lockie Ash, Jack Sinclair, who just does the same thing every year, Christian Salem, Rory Laird, Bailey Dale, John Noble, who had a career year. We did skip over Callum Mills. Maybe he's someone that's worth a bit of a shout. Carl Amon, Jaden Short, Jake Bowie. Like, all of these players, so many of them, number one, have the early buy. And I just don't see too much value in those premium players. I mean, the guy that I'm probably most likely to start here is Connor Rozee, and I'm squinting and maybe I can see 3 or 4 points of value there.
Yeah.
And I'm only really picking him because he's got a really good early run without a bye, it's not great. So I can really see a world where a cheap backline could be the structure this year. And you just don't pick any of these guys.
Yeah, well, you told me last week that it was just 8 midfield premiums to start the year and
could be.
cruise into it.
Could be.
You got to go where the value is, don't you?
Exactly.
Callum Mills, I think, is a guy worth a little bit more discussion. We won't today because we haven't done our due diligence. But also let us know in the comments, guys, if there's anyone that you either disagree with or think that we might have left out who you think presents some value. The discussion is what gets us all there.
Absolutely. I did have a little look at Callum Mills. I just don't know if he... Do you think he walks back to that midfield role? I just don't know if that's the case. Like, I feel like they would have done it last year.
He's versatile where some of his teammates aren't, and I think that
hurts him.
Yeah.
If I see something change in the preseason, like I can get a little bit excited. But he did work himself up to a price where, what is he, priced at 90? It's a little bit of a harder sell than obviously what it was early last year and midway through last year. But let us know who you are keen on in the defense. We went through the premiums. We're going to go through some more value picks. So if you like, what the hell, where's Colby McKercher or where's Nick Newman? We are going to talk about those guys on the next podcast. They fell below our cutoff. So stay tuned for that one in a couple of days, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the old thumbs up button, and give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.